My name is Greg Bybee. I'm the Product Marketing Manager for VMware vCloud Director and generally in our enterprise cloud computing space. And what I'd like to do today is I'll give you a quick introduction on the product, but very quickly want to turn it over to several of our customers. So let me give you a chance to introduce themselves. Before we do that, the standard disclaimer, there may be forward-looking statements about features and futures in here. So that let me turn over for a quick introduction from each of our panelists. Start with Glenn.
Thank you. I'm Clint Greenwood.
Clint.
It's all right.
So they've gone.
Clint Greenwood. I work at GE and focused on pretty much all things virtual and cloud technologies.
My name is Jordan Janechko. I work with Siemens IT Solutions and Services in Germany.
Hi, I'm Jim Brewster. I'm a senior principal with Sabre. I'm an architect in the cloud area.
I'm Glenn Harper, Sabre Holdings, Chief Infrastructure Architect.
James Jones from Laboratory Corporation America, IT Manager for Virtual Services.
I'm Chris Knowles. I'm an enterprise cloud architect with VMware, and I was involved with building the clouds with customers today.
Great. So I'll start out with a quick introduction on the product itself to make sure you're up to speed. This is a product we just announced yesterday in the keynote. And then we'll turn it over to each of the panelists to do a short presentation, and then hopefully very quickly open it up for Q&A so you can answer or ask questions. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into the motivation about cloud computing and the details. I know you've heard a lot about that today. But at the very end of the day, VMware vCloud Director is about enabling cloud computing. And as you've heard multiple times, there are different deployment environments for this. You can do it on-premise in a private cloud, leveraging your existing investments. You can do it in a public cloud, leveraging an external service provider. Or you can do it as a combination of both. And this is really what we find most customers are A, most likely to do, and B, most excited about. That there are a number of benefits of each. The private cloud, of course, is within your control. It's on your premise. It's easier to maintain security. And if you have scale, it can be much more cost-effective. The public cloud enables bursting, enables this on-demand capacity. And for some workloads, may be more cost-effective. And so what we think most customers are going to do is a combination of both in the hybrid cloud. But doing this is very complicated. It requires a standard platform, standard infrastructure, standard APIs, standard application interfaces. And this is really what VMware vCloud Director will deliver. So we're going to start on the private cloud side. I think that's what most of our panelists have built. Siemens will talk a little bit about the public cloud as well. But most of our customers start with the private cloud. And it's really about two key things. First, it's about virtualizing the underlying resources and delivering IT in a more efficient manner, managing your environment as a cloud. And the second aspect on the top is delivering that as a service to end users. It's a focus on the consumption aspect of the cloud. There's a number of key products that enable this. The first is the VMware vCloud API. It's a very high-level, fully virtual API that allows you to consume cloud resources. And as you've heard in a lot of the sessions, this is truly one of the secret sauce behind the interoperability, behind the integration, behind this open platform that we're enabling. On top of that, of course, VMware vSphere Enterprise Plus is doing the underlying virtualization. It's the platform for cloud infrastructures. Our vCenter management products, and as you've heard more and more, our vShield security products to enable security in the cloud. And what I want to focus on today is VMware vCloud Director and the integrated VMware Chargeback, VMware vCenter Chargeback. So I'll give you a quick technical background on the product itself. First and most importantly is it not only runs on Enterprise Plus, on vSphere, on vCenter, but it integrates with it. And it scales to over 25 vCenter servers. So this really leverages the best and brightest that VMware has to offer. The vNetwork distributed switch, distributed resource scheduler, our distributed power management. The best that VMware has is leveraged and integrated through this product. So it builds on top of that. Then what it does is it takes the virtual resources that vSphere and vCenter have already provided, the network pools, the port groups, the data stores, the resource pools, and it pools them one level further into this idea of a virtual data center. And what this lets you do is A, attach a number of policies, and B, create tiered data centers. You can take your highest-end hardware and pool them into a platinum or gold VDC, your lower-end hardware into a silver or bronze. And you can attach service-level guarantees, policies to each of those virtual data centers, and then, of course, a price tag. Each of these virtual data centers, then, is entirely protected with VMware vShield for VMware vCloud technologies, integrated into the product that enables perimeter protection around the virtual data center. It also enables NAT and DHCP services, as well as port-level firewalls, all included. And that's important because as we give users self-service access to this, it's about enabling this agility through self-service, it's very important that IT can maintain control. And so you can set up catalogs that they can deploy applications from, and they log into their own Adobe Flex-based web UI and can deploy applications into these virtual data centers. And so in that way, the VDC, the virtual data center, becomes the new unit of consumption. And the users who are accessing this environment access it through organizations. So it's this new concept we've introduced to group users into organizations. Each has their own unique virtual data centers, their own catalogs, and can have their own local LDAP connection, can have their own set of policies and privileges and rights. So this enables IT to delegate control at an organization level. And it also creates a new concept, a new persona called the organization admin, who can then manage all the users within that organization. And finally, the last piece is really this vCloud API, which is what VMware vCloud Director is built upon. And this enables three things. First, and probably most important, it enables the hybrid cloud by being a common programmatic interface to access and consume cloud resources, regardless of their environment. Second, it enables programmatic control. If users or IT would rather access the resources through APIs rather than a self-service interface, you can do that through the API. And finally, it's a key source for integrations. So as you'll see throughout the conference and on the cards that have been handed out, BMC, HP, Cisco, Catbird, HighTrust, a number of our ecosystem partners have built integrations into the VMware vCloud Director using this API. And so what does this do for you? The most important thing is it creates a separation layer between the underlying IT, between the production, the delivery, the management of IT, and the consumption of those resources. And above and beyond, above all else, this leads to higher agility for the users, for the business, and for IT, that you're able to delegate control through self-service and give users direct access to the underlying hardware. And while doing so, through the integrated vShield technologies, through the users, the roles, the rights, the privileges, IT is able to maintain control. And in doing so, in this separation, because IT is now managing a more efficient data center on the back end, because they provided users with virtual data centers rather than physical data centers, rather than their own vCenter servers, rather than a physical cluster, they're able to pool the resources on the back end and manage it much more effectively, thereby reducing costs. And finally, in doing so, you're building on vSphere Enterprise Plus, you're building on your existing management software, you're building on your existing data center, you're leveraging your people, your processes. You're able to leverage what you've done to get to the cloud construct in a very efficient and pragmatic way, while at the same time maintaining flexibility to enable moving external clouds when the time comes. So I'm going to skip through to make sure my panelists have time. The end result for IT and for users is this feeling of elastic capacity. It's cloud computing as you know it, but it's delivered through your own data center. So this is a quick demo of some of the key technologies behind the product that I'm going to zoom through. We have a number of technical sessions. There was one this morning, and there's also one tomorrow as well, where we double-click onto this slide and spend about an hour going through this one slide alone, the concept of taking the resource pools and pooling them into virtual data centers, being able to tier gold, silver, bronze, and then taking these resources from the virtual data centers and pushing them up to this concept of organizations that are protected by vShield, and each organization has its own catalogs and its own virtual data centers. There's a lot of magic, a lot of secret sauce, a lot of excitement behind the technology in this product. So I encourage you to come to the technical overview tomorrow. And if you look at the cards that have been handed out, it has all the information about that. Other thing I would say is I mentioned the management integrations. There's a number of partners at VMworld today that are demoing their integrations. And again, on the bottom of the card is a number of booths that you can visit to see the integrations with EMC, with BMC, with HP, with NetApp, Cisco, HighTrust, Catbird. The list goes on and on. So I encourage you to visit them. And the final thing I'll say is cloud, as you'll see, is about people, it's about processes and technology. So this is the technology. And as we turn it over to our panelists, they're going to talk about some of the processes they've put in place, how they've been able to build out their cloud. And also keep in mind that VMware has introduced VMware vCloud consulting services that we can also help you to get to the cloud as you begin your journey. So with that, let me pass it over to Clint. Clint?
Okay, thanks, Greg. All right, so again, my name is Clint Greenwood. I work for General Electric. I work in a shared services organization that serves roughly half of the overall GE population from a technology perspective. And what I'll go over is what we refer to as Project Rainmaker. So there's a little bit about me. You can stalk me on Twitter if you like. I would enjoy that. I like stalking people myself. My email address, feel free to take that down and reach out to me with questions if you have any. And then there's just a little blurb about the company again. Global Infrastructure Services is the name. So in some of the slides later, you might see GIS. Don't get scared by the acronym. It's just around the specific shared services org I work for. So to set up the context real quick, Project Rainmaker has come about. It's a journey into the cloud, right? We've been hearing that for years now, and it's certainly no different at GE. The first step of that was our deployment of VMware. We've been using VMware for a number of years, and it's been very successful. We've seen the CapEx savings from server consolidation. It has provided real tangible benefits to GE. While it's good and while it's great, we knew that there was room for improvement. So we kicked off a next-gen data center project where we went out to the technical thought leaders in the industry, met with them to see how are they moving toward the cloud. What tools are they using? How are they going to get there? And we wanted to understand best practices. How did they encourage or drive virtualization in their organizations as well? We wanted to learn from the best and the brightest. As we were doing that, there were some, let's say, rumbles of maturity coming to fruition within the ecosystem, specifically what was Project Redwood. Went into beta, and VMware approached us to participate, and we were thrilled to jump into that. So we then really began to look at what is now vCloud Director and Project Redwood, and that's where we get to the final section here, which is let's put together a POC to build that next-gen GIS, again, the acronym there, the GIS cloud. It was an aggressive timeline. We stood up the cloud in roughly a month and a half, and I'll go into some more details here in a second. And then we will do a further rollout where we will truly productionize it to the rest of the GE organizations that we serve. All right, here's some of the details. From an architecture perspective, you'll see that up in the upper left-hand corner there. What we're excited about with VCD, you've heard about some of it, you've seen some of it, I'm sure, but the self-service provisioning is fantastic. The ability for end users or maybe your build or engineering teams to have a higher level view that they can go in and provision servers. The catalogs that are available, so the opportunity to create virtual applications and VMs, package them in a consumable catalog that is then segregated by organizations. So I can truly create a cloud for an organization within GE, so let's say GE Capital, and then publish a catalog to them where users of that catalog can come in and then consume resources. vShield and the vShield family of tools, that is what really provides that true multi-tenancy. And then finally, the vCenter chargeback, we implemented that as well, and has a fairly flexible pricing model where you can go into 3 different types of chargeback models. So it provides us the ability to really move to utility pricing. We're not there yet. The businesses, let's say, have a bit of heartburn around variability in the billing, but it gives us the opportunity to move there when folks become comfortable with it. So the POC was all about let's get it stood up, let's make sure it's real and not vaporware or slideware. It's real, it works, it's good. The vision, though, is the hybrid cloud that Greg's already touched on. Paul Moritz and others talked about it yesterday, and that is within GE have a private cloud and the ability then to burst out to other external service providers. Additionally, GE is large enough, and we have multiple technology companies within General Electric itself that we can burst in between those clouds within the GE infrastructure. Yeah, it would be, you can set it up and we would do it probably every month, but we'll have time for questions at the end as well. All right, thanks. So the ability to burst out to external service providers as well as move workloads internally. And, we've got a couple use cases there around capacity-driven bursts. If you have, for example, maybe we have a marketing application in-house or a marketing website, something that we've put up, let's say with NBC or NBCU, and it goes viral. We have the ability then, we could burst that out into the public cloud and we wouldn't have to expend a lot of capital dollars to build up our capacity. All right, so I just wanted to give you a quick look at, let's say, the components of the cloud in a different view. We did roll this out on the Cisco Unified system. I'll be speaking at the Cisco booth at 4 o'clock today if you want to stop by. I'll give a bit more detail on that. But there are some of the high-level bullet points from a UCS perspective with the scalable system, a single management domain. With the UCSM, it's stateless compute and unified fabric. Next, we are leveraging that investment we already have in ESX and vSphere. So we don't have to go out and learn new technologies. We're using the best practices of vSphere. We did, of course, move to 4.1. VCD, of course, that's the key. There's a gentleman in here with long flowing locks and a ponytail who will tell you it is an abstraction of an abstraction, and it provides a ton of flexibility. We look at it as the catalyst to the cloud. Secure multi-tenancy, I touched on that with Shield. I'm trying to move a little bit quicker as I've taken too long. End-user control with the self-service provision in the front end. So where we're looking at, again, just another look at what we want to do, and that is set up the GIS private cloud, which we've done. Again, we need to scale it out a bit more, leveraging vSphere. And then with vCloud Director, and again, the catalyst to the cloud, the ability to burst within GE to other clouds in the organization, and then externally to the public cloud. And then finally, we're excited about the acquisition of SpringSource, and that platform as a service would become, let's say, more of a reality in the sense of being able to migrate those workloads as well. I think we're looking at infrastructure as a service essentially here. That would be my view on it. And platform as a service would be more of the long-term win. And I'll save you the summary, but VCD has been great. The VCD and UCS is definitely a compelling combination. Thanks.
So, hello everybody. My name is Jordan Yanechko, Siemens IT Solutions and Services. Siemens IT Solutions and Services is a company based pretty much in Germany, does 4.7 billion euros of revenue, did in 2009. Part of that is for Siemens, but a majority of that is for external customers. And so what I wanted to do today is give you a little insight as far as sort of how we see cloud computing and how we see the vCloud Director, sort of from the other side of that which Clint was just talking about. I myself am the program director for cloud computing, so I'm responsible for making sure we have a strategy that fits our company and making sure we have a product portfolio that's sort of harmonized and going in the right direction. And it doesn't seem like it's all scattershot going in different directions. So for us, what's important is, I mentioned we do a lot of business with both outsourcing and professional services. And so systems integration is something that's very important for us. And that's something that we don't see in a lot of public cloud things right now, and something where we think we have a lot to offer in bringing into sort of those core services of infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. We also have historically done quite a bit of work in the security region. For Siemens, we've got a single sign-on. Siemens has worldwide about 400,000 employees. So that's something that we're used to doing on sort of a big scale and something that we think we can bring into sort of the cloud computing. That's the context that we see it. Hybrid models, I'll get to. I think everybody understands that hybrid models is somewhere sort of bridging the gap between what an enterprise has at home, what an enterprise maybe does with an outsourcer, somebody like us, and what they might be doing with the public cloud and sort of how those interfaces fit. And then on the top, I won't get into this, but it's one of my favorites. It's the community cloud, and that deals with a vertical business integration. We align very well with the different activities that the Siemens sectors do, which is healthcare, which is energy, discrete manufacturing, and we've got some additional ones in financial and media. In any case, what we do here is we try and leverage the whole cloud system of saying you're getting away from more of a perimeter security, and you have a way of identifying specific users, and with enterprise rights management, we try and make sure that you get a good, solid way between companies. So you identify workflows that are amongst individual companies and try and get them working closer together by using a cloud infrastructure. Yeah? So that's what we call the house of services, and that's what we think that we can offer to an enterprise, and what we think enterprises really need when they're talking about cloud computing. So, and this brings me to VMware and our relationship with VMware and why we were excited to be one of the first 5 companies to actually start using the vCloud Director. As you can see, it's always important for companies like ours to have relationships with a whole bunch of different providers. But if you look in the bottom right-hand corner and you look at infrastructure as a service, You see we've got a big solid block of VMware. We have chosen them. I think right now we're using, I think the last list I saw, about 16 different products in our global data centers from VMware. And we're also very interested in sort of that climbing up the stack with SpringSource and Zimbra and seeing how we can integrate that into what we have to offer. So that's how sort of we view the world. Let's go to sort of public cloud computing, because I think everybody sort of knows that list of concerns on the left. You know, sort of, if I use a public cloud, where's my information being stored? Is it compliant? These are things that maybe a consumer isn't very interested in, maybe something where a smaller company doesn't think that's so crucial, but we're an enterprise who's maybe already been burnt once or twice with not exactly following the rules that sometimes you don't even know exist. It's a little difficult to get all that sort of in jive with what a public cloud offers, because you're not exactly sure how things go. And so the solutions to some of that is that you have a solid framework and a risk analysis. I mentioned before we do a lot of, I think we're set up in, I can't remember how many countries. In any case, what's important for us is a security framework that takes into account the different legal restrictions that you have, not only in sort of the EU and in the United States, but also elsewhere, where it gets a little tricky, where the borderline between what's secure, what's compliant, where the legal restrictions, it takes a lot of in-depth decision and research. So what we see of the hybrid model is also sort of an overlay to that. What Greg said before about a public cloud, we sort of distance ourselves from a public cloud. We're not a credit card swipe and you can start using our services. We are somebody who wants to know the customer, know what their needs are, and sort of go with them through that and figure out how they can best use the technologies, and not just sort of say, it's a public cloud and I just shove stuff in there. So we think that with the top-down pressures, that's handled nicely by using something like a vCloud director, something where you can set up and you have a transparency where the enterprise feels comfortable and they know what the setup is. If you go to a public cloud, not only might you not know what sort of compliance issues there are behind that, but you also aren't exactly sure what sort of infrastructure they have. And so we feel by using a product that's as open as this, we have a good way of convincing enterprises that they understand exactly what's going on with their data or with their workflow applications or whatever it happens to be. In spite of that, in spite of the fact that everybody knows there are risks with public clouds, everybody knows that there's a lot of underground use of things going on. There was, I was at a breakout yesterday. There was a statistic that about 1/3 of employees use external IT products to actually do their job. It's not that they're playing around with Facebook or Twitter or something for free time. It's that they're actually using it for their jobs. And that makes some of the top executives nervous, because obviously they don't know what's going on in their own company. They don't know what their risk exposure is. They don't know what sort of security breaches they're having, because what information is outside and what information is inside. It's a difficult situation. And again, that gets us back to the vCloud director and why we think that it's something that allows a transparency that you can use. So what we did as part of the beta program was set up a secure virtual test center, where, as Greg was saying, you know, we've set up 2 virtual data centers based on different physical machines. So we have a gold level and a silver level that can be used. We've set up a series of V apps that help people either test or develop. We've got various T-shirt sizes for different size virtual machines that people can use. The demo we have running on the floor, by the way, is in a data center. I think it's split between Munich and a place called Fürth, which is outside of Nuremberg. In any case, that's actually what we're showing when you go downstairs. And I heard there were going to be a lot of techies in the audience, so I thought I'd switch over to this slide instead of staying high level. I think maybe with the exception of the load balancer that's on the bottom, we've got most of this running in the demo that we show downstairs, if I can get this thing to work. So I just wanted to point out 1 or 2 highlights as far as how we see things going on. I'm going to blind John over here if I'm not careful. What we have is we've got the customer down here. So we've got LAN separation between the Siemens administrators and the customer that's down on the bottom. We've got a virtual cloud director that through the load balancer is highly available. We've got a redundant system. For some of the back-end things that we've got going on, the SQL database that's behind the chargeback server, we've got high availability. Those are those hot red boxes over there. I just wanted to point out we've got a robust and scalable infrastructure that we've set up here. And again, that's one of the things that we think is necessary for talking with enterprises. You know, Clint was talking about sort of we need to be able to break out. Well, we're the people we want to be broken into in that sense. And we need to make sure that there's a secure infrastructure there where everybody says, yeah, I understand what's going on there, and I'm comfortable with actually either sending you my virtual machines or my vApps or whatever your interface happens to be within the two companies. And we've got a couple of engineers here if you're interested in going into a deep dive about this. Again, we've got both the booth and we've also got the Cloud Pavilion stand, and this demo is being shown at the Cloud Pavilion. I've clicked in the wrong direction twice. In any case, I mentioned I was going to, do I need to stop? All right, I need to stop. Let me just close off by saying, one of the things we're doing with our operational frameworks, the infrastructure that we use with our data centers, is a process-centric architecture where we are enhancing it to be able to split back and forth between both private clouds and also public clouds as we extend and we're more comfortable with what they're doing. And what I wanted to go in a little more in depth with, but ran out of time, is just sort of saying we don't think the public cloud is the end game. If you go back 12 months ago, people were talking as if there was one big public cloud and it was this sort of wonderful world where everybody would be using it. We're pretty convinced that the hybrid model is the place that it's going to be the steady state that people approach. And that's another reason why we think it's important that the APIs are available where you can sort of integrate that and find convenient ways of saying, okay, I'm going to merge these two and bridge these two different areas and use just as much my private infrastructure as well as the public infrastructure when I'm convinced that the security and the compliance aspects are taken care of. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Glenn Harper.
And I'm Jim Brewster.
We work with Sabre Holdings. Sabre is a global travel marketplace connecting suppliers such as airlines, cars, hotels to travel agents and travel consumers. And what we're talking about today is our Sabre Revenue Integrity product. We built it out as a 3-tier application inside the vCloud Director. When we started, it was a much longer name. They shortened it up for taking it to the public. But it's a 3-tier application that has a website, 2 application servers, and a database all together as one application, one vApp inside the cloud. And then we're able to take that in a development environment and then cookie cutter it into multiple environments. So a little bit more about development.
Yeah, so today we face some challenges in our enterprise development test lab. Sabre utilizes sort of a follow-the-sun approach to development. We've got developers spread out all over the planet, US, UK, Iceland, Poland, you can see on the screen. But what we've done with the physical infrastructure is consolidate it all down into the US, and it's mainly operated by US-based staff. So the developers use a ticket-based system to make their request. It's very manually intensive. There's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of turnaround time. It's not responsive. And what's happened with our virtualization first policy in the lab is we've got 2.5 times more virtual servers than physical servers. So it's increased the workload of the operations staff. So we need a solution. And the solution we believe is the VMware vCloud Director. It's got the self-service portal that allows the developers to come in and request the resources, the IT resources they need to do to build their products and test their products. It offloads a lot of the common tasks from the ops team to let them focus on more value-added sorts of things. And developers can also use the catalog functionality to build their complex composite multi-VM vApps to do integration testing across the different versions of the subcomponents.
So it's taking the human out of the equation, so just-in-time provisioning of development environments. So once we take it in the development environment, the Sabre Revenue Integrity application scans PNRs and travel information and takes out bad bookings, fraudulent bookings, things that won't be able to fulfill, and helps the airlines keep their airplanes full, costs down, which helps the traveling public have the lower airfares out there. What we want to do is actually take it from the development environment where developers are cloning it for dev, test, and actually give it to the sales team. And so the sales force will now be able, as non-technical users, to provision their own demonstration environments. They can do it for training for customers. They can provision it for customer demonstration purposes. Today, those are physical machines. They have to check them out like a library book, and they'll have it for 30 days, and they'll wait 30 days and give it to the next customer. In this case, they can actually provision the environment in the customer's office at the time of sale. So think about that. Going from a 30-day window to stand up an environment for a customer to test to less than a 30-minute provisioning in the customer's office. Show them around their demo environment. Give it to them for a fixed amount of time. It expires, say, after 30 days. You like it, you buy it. If you don't like it, it deprovisions to disk. And then after a while, then it gets deleted from space. But it allows the sales team to have fast return on their market, fast return on their customers, which means greater savings, millions of dollars in saving by getting our products to our customers faster.
So we had VMware come out in July and help us stand up a proof of concept with some pre-released vCloud code. And here's a look at sort of the underlying physical infrastructure. We started with our standard HP Blaze and Cisco Nexus switching and our NetApp 3160 filers and installed 4.1, ESX 4.1 on there. And then on top of that, we layer on the vCloud pieces, the vShield Manager and the Chargeback appliance. That all rides on top of several Oracle instances for the database. And then at the top is the vCloud Director cell. That's the piece that provides the self-service UI and the XML interface.
So we started I think July 5th, just after the 4th of July holiday, had it up and running. All we had to do was get ESX 4.1 down. The vCloud Director was actually virtualized machines that were dropped into an already existing ESX environment. So it was up and running way before we had non-disclosures and other agreements in place.
It was that easy to install, yes.
It really was pretty easy to install. And then the revenue integrity team actually went on vacation. They're a European company, so they took a week off, and we had to get back on track. Even with that, we got everything we wanted done. And so Sabre, like I was saying, Sabre Revenue Integrity is a 3-tier application. So we packaged in this environment a web server, 2 app servers, and a database server, all as one vApp. Put it into the catalog. And once it's in the catalog, you clone it. The DNS names inside this vApp do not change. The only thing that changes is the public IP addresses. We had 2 public IP addresses. I think the next slide actually has that. So,
yeah, real quick. Here's a screenshot from the self-service portal showing our test vApp there. The buttons across the top allow you to start, stop, and pause. You can click on the black rectangles and bring up a full console onto the VM. And below that, the horizontal lines represent the different virtual network rails. Little circle with the X in the middle, that's the vShield appliance that's isolating that vApp from the outside world.
So it's a big time saver. Because you packaged a known good configuration, DNS names don't change, IP addresses don't change. The only time that things change when you provision a new environment are those 2 public IP addresses, as you see on the Oracle database for management and on the web server for ingesting XML traffic. That means every time you clone it, it's known, it's good, it's tested. And it changes the way we do development and testing. And then that's why we believe we can take it to market faster and actually show our customers the product and in their office because it's known and good. Now, as we go forward and deploy this, because it's just now public code, it's actually downloadable, the final bits are out there. So we're going to download it. We're going to convert our existing VM environment into a cloud environment. So it's about 1,400 virtual machines that will slide into this. We'll have a standard catalog of virtual machines that our teams can check out and use. Saves more time because admins don't have to say what kind of server do you want, how big should it be. The developers themselves will go choose known good configurations. And they'll be given a sandbox of only so much resource in the way of CPU, memory, and disk. Once they fill it up, they got to go clean up their room and put new environments in there. So we believe that by giving the developers the ability to provision their own environments within a walled garden of resources, that they will be more efficient at it. They will take the time to decommission virtual machines that are not being used so they can re-provision and reuse that space. Today, it takes so much time to get virtual machines out into the environment. Once they have them, they never let go of them. I might need it next week. They keep it up forever. So in this environment, once they're given a fixed amount of resources, they can then choose which environments they spin up and shut down because it's all self-service. As we go out, we want to get it to the sales team for training and demo environments, and eventually we want to make it production environment. And once it's in production, in the cloud, the customers can run their product in our data center, in our private cloud. They can use a hybrid cloud and run it at a third party, for example, Siemens. So they could host these products that Sabre has written in the public cloud or even in their own data center, in their own private cloud. And everywhere it goes, it's a known good configuration. The app didn't change. It's running on the same infrastructure in all the locations. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, I'm James Jones, IT Manager of Virtual Services for Laboratory Corporation America. Let's see, we're the number 2 medical testing facility in the country, basically $5.2 billion in revenue yearly. And basically, I'm just going to talk off the platform these guys already had built, basically. We've run into the same problems, basically built the same similar environment using the same tools. But basically, what I'm going to talk to is one in particular story. Currently, we're finding at like LabCorp, a single physical server takes 30 to 42 days to stand up. That's basically 2 weeks to purchase from the vendor and have it shipped in, rack it, build racks if we have to, lay power cables, network cables. Everybody knows here the 9. A single virtual server, 7 days, because we have change process, so we have to request the IPs, request the storage. It has to go in front of a change committee, make sure everything's okay. Then we get the okay to take the little bit of time it does to spin up a virtual machine. Basically, what vCloud has given us is since we can pool all the IP addresses ahead of time, pool all the storage ahead of time, and make sure we have the whole environment ready. In particular, we had one instance where there was a project. We were talking about the ticketing system here with the other company. Same process happens at LabCorp. They want to go to a new feature or function or a brand new third-party app. There's the give and take, back and forth, deciding if they want to do it and all this stuff. Roughly takes, say, 30 days to go through the whole process. Then they decide to want the server. Well, in the meantime, you may have the system application owner request consultants to be on site. So in this particular case, we had a consultant coming on site the same day the request was for the server. We just happened to be in the middle of the beta, setting up the cloud. We had just got it done, finished, and the system administrator had come in and said, I need this server now. We got people coming here. So basically, we needed a test subject to go through the vCloud director. Basically just sat down with him over the shoulder. Just Nancy, one of our system engineers, were there, and Chris was there too. Chris Knowles. Yeah. So basically, this person just sat down, put in the specs, hit enter. In 5 minutes, we had the system provision. Consultant had no idea that all this mess was going on in the background, and we were able to get everybody up and running, and so we looked good, and the system application owner basically had no idea all this was happening. Typically in that scenario, we would have had a consultant sitting, charging us their hours while we were waiting to spin this thing up and going through our exception on our change requests and all that stuff. And that's all because of vCloud. It's kind of, basically we just plan ahead and we can just really quickly deploy these machines. And the other part of this is the virtual data center. Now, you've been seeing the silver, gold, and bronze, and we were talking specifically about development groups. Kind of up front, what we did is we kind of set things where we're still slightly siloed, so we have the Windows team and the Linux team and the Unix team. So basically what we did was we're setting up the Linux guys and the Windows guys to have their own little areas. And instead of basically coming to us and say, I need 36 servers this week, they're going to be in charge of deploying that, so it's going to help build a little more relationship with the teams and also get their skin in the game for controlling our capacity. And the other thing is standardization through the process. Basically, we do have standards. We have templates in VMware. Linux has Kickstart servers and stuff like that for their images. What this allows us to do with vCloud is we have the templates, like we said here, everything pre-built, pre-discovered, pre-approved in the service catalog, and they can just put things out there. And again, like we also said with Sabre, everything is a standard, and that's something that's kind of new to us in some sense. And basically, that's going to just help us go forward and hopefully become more profitable in the end. And I think that's about it.
Thank you very much. So first, I just want to give all these gentlemen a round of applause because I've been working with all of them for quite a while, which is why it's extra embarrassing that I still get the names confused. But they all deployed this months ago, some as early as June, July, on pre-release code on vSphere 4.1 before it came out, on Chargeback 1.5 before it came out, vCloud Director before it came out. So what they're speaking to is actually on